Very nice. All right, let's finish it up. As you can see, it says the end. Question mark. Is there really an end? There really isn't. It's kind of nice to know, isn't it? So there is no end. But we are coming to the end of this story in a way. And so let's all turn to 1 Samuel and remind ourselves of what we saw last week. And last week we saw David anointed because Saul's sins, even though he's warned several times, God finally said, I am going to rip away the kingdom from you, and I'm going to give it to somebody who has a heart like I have a heart. A perfect man? No, but one who maybe when he sins actually cares about it a little more. So he has now anointed David, and David's not ready. Let's face it. He's a younger man. He needs training. He needs to know what to do. So some time goes by. In fact, after the anointing of David, we have things like David versus Goliath. Kind of a big thing, right? We also have David being used by Saul to go out and lead his armies, which led to songs. You remember the songs that the ladies would sing when Saul would come back from his escapades with his great victories? Saul has killed his thousands, but David his 10,000. Oh, Saul hated that, right? And jealousy and rage and spears got involved where he tried to kill him. He even sent mercenaries to go and assassins to kill him in his bed, which led to the oldest trick in the book. Remember the oldest trick in the book? Pillows. Yeah, his wife put pillows under the bed, said, oh, he can't come out, he's sick. And they looked in and he said, oh, he's sick. So I went back to Saul and said, hey, he was sick. We can't kill him when he's sick. He said, go check again. Went back in his pillows. So oldest trick in the book. So no, he was long gone. We also have a tremendous relationship between David and Jonathan. Jonathan's the one I always feel sorry for. How about you? What did Jonathan do wrong? Nothing. I mean, he's a sinner like the rest of us, but he did nothing to deserve it. But when that kingdom gets ripped away from Saul, it also gets ripped away from whom? From Jonathan. But does that stop Jonathan, by the way? I always love that part when Saul says to Jonathan, don't you realize that for David to be the king, that means you will not be? Jonathan goes, yeah. Whatever God's will is, right? And we also have him fleeing. And David had to flee and go. In fact, at one point, he fled to Gath. You say, what's the big deal about Gath? Who else was from Gath? Goliath. He actually fled to the Philistines, fled to Gath, where David or Goliath's family was, and he pretended to be mad, pretended to be crazy, right? Got out of it that way. He also gathered to him a bunch of mighty men. In fact, at one point, Saul went into a cave. He was chasing David all over the wilderness, and he goes into a cave, but who else was in that cave? David and his men, all pressed against the wall. And David had a chance. In fact, his loyal advisor said what? Kill him. I mean, clearly God, of all the caves in all the land, he comes in here by himself, nobody with him. Clearly God arranged that, right? Clearly this is a sign, this is your chance, right? We can all go home. We can all kill him. And he said what? I will not touch God's anointed. And he doesn't. Rips off a little bit of his coat. That's all right. His mantle. But, he felt sorry about it later. Shouldn't damage his clothing either, I guess. But yeah. And it is at that point we pick up the story in 1 Samuel 25. So all that has happened. All of that has happened between his anointing and 1 Samuel chapter 25. Which brings the question, where's Samuel been? Let's say it all together. I don't know. He's been in Ramah. He's been doing his circuit. He's been going around, but we don't know what he's been doing. The next time we hear about Samuel, from the time he anoints David, and all that stuff's going on, and Saul's going crazy, and all this, and he's out there running for his life, we don't hear from Samuel or about Samuel until chapter 25, verse 1. And it starts this way. And Samuel died. Like, let's pick up the story. He's dead. Right? And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him and buried him in the house at Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. Now, what that sounds to me is like, who was there? Was David there? Sounds like it, doesn't it? Sounds like he was there. Who else was likely there? King Saul. I just want you to point this out because right before chapter 25, we had that incident with Saul. And because of that incident with Saul, when Saul realized that he had a chance to kill him and he didn't, there was peace between them. I don't think it's a coincidence. Do you? That there was peace between them long enough for who to die? Samuel to die. They can all get together. They can all lament. They can all say goodbye. And then off to the races again. Then let's start running again. So it's kind of like, time out. All right, let's start chasing each other again, right? And that's basically what happened. Because from there, David has the incident with Nabal, and he picks up another wife named Abigail. Then he picks up another wife. So he's getting a lot of wives in this period of time when he's on the run. Hey, if you can get wives while you're on the run from the king, you must be doing something right. Must have been a good-looking dude. Right? And also, David spares Saul again. Remember, they snuck into the camp, and Saul just happened. Again, of all the pieces of ground, just think of this army spread about, and they happen to stumble upon who? Saul. And it happens that nobody's awake to look to even protect the king. And again, what does his advisor say? Well, God's done it again. Come on, let's stick him. Spare him through, get us done. And of course, he does not, right? So he spares him again, and then he's running for his life, and he ends up going to the Philistines again. And this time he doesn't pretend to be mad. This time he pretends to be on their side. And David is basically fighting for the Philistines. Let's put that in quotes, though. For the Philistines. Because what he would do is he would take raiding parties with his mighty men, go into Israel, and absolutely destroy cities, killing everybody and everything. But these were cities that didn't happen to have Jews in them. Happened to be other people living in the land. And nobody really figured that out. But the king was very happy with them. Oh, you're doing a great job bringing all the spoil back and everything. I hear you've made another road today. That's what they always say. Oh, where have you made a road today, David? And very happy with them. But what he didn't realize is that he wasn't killing any of his own people. Until we get to chapter 28. Then it comes to a head. Chapter 28, we're going to start in verse 1. And once again, the Philistines are going to gather to attack King Saul and his army. And of course, he turns to David and says, what? Come along. Come join us in our victory over the Israelites. Chapter 28, verse 1. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel. And Achish said, he's the king of that particular area of Philistia. And Achish said unto David, know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, you and your men. Make no mistake, David, you're coming with me. You have been doing such a great job. I'm basically promoting you. Man, you're going to be my main guy here. Verse 2. And David said to Achish, surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. You will see what I can do this day. He's in a spot, isn't he? He's been getting away with it for a long time now. And what does Achish said? And Achish said to David, therefore will I make thee keeper of mine own head forever. Your job is going to be to protect me, your enemy, the enemy of Israel, the enemy of God. You're going to protect me. And David has to go with him. Don't panic, people. David didn't panic. His men panicked a little bit. Like, what are we doing? We've kind of been able to bamboozle these guys for a long time now. What are we doing? We can't get out of this. Does God get them out of it? Do you remember? They're rolling along, and all of a sudden the other kings, there's 5 kings of the Philistia area, they all look at David and say, hey, we're not taking him, are we? we don't trust him. He's an Israelite. We're going to go fight Israelites, right? He's even said he's the next king of Israel. You really trust him? And they actually convinced him to say, no, we don't trust you. Go home. Does God take care of things? Is God watching over David? Very much so. So let's pick up the story there. I love verse 3. How many have ever read A Christmas Carol? Anybody know how the Christmas Carol starts? Marley was dead to begin with. And this is a little bit of a ghost story. So, how does it really start? Samuel is dead to begin with. Verse 3. Now Samuel was dead. Of this you must be sure, or nothing else you read from now on. No, that's how it goes. Right? Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him. So it's not like he's dead again, by the way. They already had lamented him. He died back in chapter 25. Right? Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. And that's good, right? The law said they can't be here. In fact, the law said you kill those people. Anybody doing palm readings and tarot cards back then? I don't know. Whatever they had. Tossing of this and tossing of that and crystal bowls and whatever. He said, get those people out of here, right? They're not to be here. And he'd done that. Again, was Saul completely terrible as a king? Actually, no. He'd done some good things too. He just had a faith issue. Verse 4. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. In other words, there were a lot of them. That was always the thing back then, It's like they're moving this way. You don't really know where you're going to meet. Think about it. I mean, they had no planes flying over. They had no helicopters. They had no reconnaissance except maybe a young guy they just kind of run over there and see what you got. But I mean, you're bringing many you think you need. And then you crest that hill and you realize we're going to need a bigger boat, right? we're going to need more people. They brought a lot. In fact, the 5 kings, all of them had come. It was just Achish and his army, even though it was with David. I mean, could have handled that, but it was all of them. And they're all coming. And his heart melted, which isn't out of character with Saul. We've seen that before, haven't we? Where he gets a little nervous and gets a little scared of whether it's a giant or there's a lot of people, either way. And his heart melted. So what does Saul do? Saul does the right thing. And what's the right thing in that situation? They pray to God, yeah. Lord, what am I supposed to do? What's the problem? God's not talking to him. And normally he would go to who? Samuel. But Samuel wasn't talking to him before he died anyways. So who do you go? Who do I trust? Who can I? Because let's face it, he could probably turn to somebody and say, what does the Lord say? And I bet they say, oh, you're going to get the great victory. They'll say whatever they want to say. He needs somebody who can trust, and he doesn't have that. By the way, would you be a little scared? If God wasn't talking to you, there was nobody you could trust around you. In fact, the one person he could probably trust is David. And some of his mighty men, and some of the people are on his side. And he can't trust anybody. Because when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Urim's casting of lots. Think of it that way. It's kind of causing these sticks. And they got no clear answer. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to engage? Am I supposed to pull back? Well, I don't know what to do here. So he did the only thing he thought he could do. And isn't that Saul's problem? He always did the only thing he thought he could do. Whether it was, oh, I've got to do this sacrifice or all the people are going to leave. It's, I got to do it without Samuel because that's all I can think to do. Oh, I've got to keep the sheep and stuff so the people will be happy because that's all I can think to do. If it comes down to that in your life where it's up to you to figure out what the best thing to do is, don't do it. Just good advice. And his best thought was, let's find a witch. Let's get one of those people that looks at evil spirits because I need to talk to Samuel. And Samuel's what? Dead. To begin with. This we must be sure, right? He's dead. So he says, I need to find a witch because I need to talk to the dead. It's the only one I trust. Which is sad, by the way, because it's been a long time since Samuel has not talked to him. And he hasn't been able to find anybody. Very alone. No wonder you went a little crazy, right? Very sad situation. Verse 7. Then said Saul unto his servants, seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, behold, there is a woman that has a familiar spirit in where? Endor. Yes, that is why her name is Endora, if you know who I'm talking about. She is the witch of Endor. And I find it fascinating that, what does it say earlier? He cast out all the people. But the second he says, where's one? They said, oh, she's right over there. Incomplete obedience is a problem, isn't it? Oh, yeah, she's right over there. You can go talk to her anytime. So, $1 an hour, it'll be fine. Verse 8. And Saul disguised himself. Why? Because if you were a witch and you saw the king coming, what would you do? Yeah, we're closed. It's like, you're throwing people out. You're throwing people in prison. You have people killed for this. No, I'm not going to do that. But he disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. I need to talk to somebody who's dead. I will give you the name, and you bring him up. And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest that Saul hath done. He's driven us all out. This is illegal in this country. How he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life to cause me to die? Now, does anybody find it interesting that this one who's supposed to know things and know things doesn't know that this is Saul? Yeah. It's one of those problems, isn't it? So, and Saul sware to her, oh, this is the bad part, by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. And again, good advice. Don't swear by the Lord that something they shouldn't be doing is okay. Don't worry, no punishment will happen to you because of this sin. I swear by the Lord. The Lord's not happy about this, is he? Not happy, but the Lord is going to use it. So, nothing bad will happen to you. Verse 11. Then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. So if you're her, what do? Get out the smoke and mirrors, right? Woo! Let's bring up Samuel. Let's talk to the dead. Can she actually talk to the dead? No. And I say that because of her response. Let's see what happens. I think this is funny. This is kind of a funny little episode here. And verse 12, and when the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me, for thou art Saul? This was not right. What would she usually do? Just make it up, right? This is what he said. What's your question? Oh, there he is. But who actually came? Samuel. And who's the only one in her mind that can actually get Samuel to come back? King Saul. You must be King Saul. What's going on here? You're Saul. What have you done to me? Verse 13. And the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, that's hard to say, I saw God ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man comes up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. So there was something probably in the mantle, probably in the way, but this is him, right? Why coming up out of the ground? Gods coming up out of the ground? Aren't they supposed to be where? Shouldn't gods come down from above? Yeah, picture. But we also have to remember, this is before who? This is before Christ. And where did souls go before Christ? They went to Hades. Yeah. And Jesus told that story of Lazarus and the rich man. They are in the same place, but one is in paradise, where it's very nice, and the other one with a gulf in between is in complete torment, right? So we have him come back. In fact, it says Jesus, when he died on the cross, went where? Down. Now, we don't know if in this realm ups and downs really mean the same thing, but this is what she saw. This is accurate. In the entire Old Testament, there is never word of things coming down except for angels. Saints are always coming where? Up. I hope to come up out of the grave, David said. I hope to come up in this thing because they're coming up from paradise. But through Jesus Christ, we go where? Up. We go up to be with him, right? So, because our sins are not just covered in the Old Testament, what happened on that cross? What changed on the cross? Completely washed away. Completely paid for, right? So that is the picture she gets, and here comes Samuel, and now Saul himself says, this is him. And what does grumpy old Samuel say? Would you be happy about coming up? Where's he been? Paradise. If you've been living in paradise, would you want to come to this dump? Would you want to come to some stinky old tent or in Endor for some witch? Would you want to do that? Come back and talk to Saul again, especially when you consider the message he's got to give, right? Let's look what it is. Verse 15. And Samuel said to Saul, why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? What are you doing? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed. To which Samuel said, aren't you always? No, he didn't. I would say that. And it says, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answers me no more, not by prophets, nor by dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may make known unto me what I shall do. Now, again, we pick on Saul a lot, but he's actually going to the right place, isn't he? He's going to somebody who in his life he trusted. Not enough to wait for him. Not enough to ask him and obey everything he says, but not 100%, but he has trusted him. And he really is, in his mind, the only one he can still go to. And he wants to know what to do. Is that such a bad thing, by the way, that he just wants to know what to do? And he needs godly advice? No, that's not so bad. It's just the way he's going about it. It's a problem. Verse 16, then said Samuel, wherefore then dost thou ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from you, and has become thine enemy? Whose side is Samuel on? God. So if God's departed you, why are you asking me? All right? How am I supposed to help? Then he says this, verse 17, the Lord hath done to him as he spake by me. For the Lord hath rent the kingdom out of thine hand, and given it to thy neighbor, even David. I told you this when? When I was alive. What's happening now, I don't know why you're all upset about it, because it's exactly what we told you was going to happen. So I don't know what more information you want. This is it. Verse 18, because thou obeyest not the voice of the Lord, nor executest his fierce wrath upon Amalek, therefore hath the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. Don't you remember we talked about this? The last time we were together, We talked about this. You disobeyed, therefore it's taken away from you. I was taken away from you. God's Spirit was taken away from you because you disobeyed. Saul, I don't know how I can help you here, but I do have some information for you. And it's not good, is it? Verse 19, moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hand of the Philistines. So you want to know what to do? There's nothing you can do. You are going to fight, and you are going to lose. That's a victory speech right there, huh? I think Saul went back and told that to the troops. Let's go, people. We're going to die today. God has said so. But that's what he said. And tomorrow shall you and thy sons be with me. What does that mean? It means two things. It means two things. One of them, not so good. Unless you look at it from, all that fear and stuff you have, Saul, it'll be gone. All those terrors you have and the madness, it'll be over. All those problems you have being king and all that stuff, be an ancient memory. Because you tomorrow are going to what? Die. Not just you, but your sons too. That's the good and bad news, right? What's the great news here?
Going to paradise.
Yes. Yes. Isn't that nice? Did God ever give up on Saul? Samuel didn't either. He was told not to talk to him, but you saw how much that hurt him. And here is like, this is the news, right? And this is good news. You'll be with me. You want to talk to me? You could always wait a little tomorrow. So, this is what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you and your sons will be with me. The Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. Not only that, but your entire army is going to be defeated. Not good. Now, how would you respond to such news? Yeah, I'm going to be with you. Hey, I'm going to paradise tomorrow. No, this is sad, isn't it? And Saul did what? Verse 20, then Saul fell straightway all along on the earth and was sore afraid because of the words of Samuel, and there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no bread all day nor all night. He traveled all the way to Endor, had not eaten, and he just lays out flat. He's got no energy. You ever had that happen to you? You've just been going, and then something bad happens, and it's just like, I'm done. There's nothing I can do. And then the witch, we shouldn't keep calling her the witch, the woman, the spirit one, she's actually very kind to Saul. Let's look what happens. And the woman came unto Saul and saw that he was sore troubled, and said unto him, behold, thine handmaid hath obeyed thy voice, and I have put my life in my hand, and have hearkened unto thy words which thou speakest unto me. I could have been killed for it, but I did what you asked me to do. You can trust me, right? Now therefore I pray thee, hearken thou also unto the voice of thine handmaid, and let me set a morsel of bread before you, and eat, that thou mayest have strength when thou goest on thy way. On thy way to where? On your way to battle, but to lose, right? But what does Saul do? And again, this gets a little bit of the attitude and the way of, he throws a fit. I will not eat. He refused and said, I will not eat. All is lost. He just tended to go this direction. Don't pick on him too much, because we do this sometimes too, don't we? It's just, hey, all is lost. There's no hope. What's the point of even eating? What's the point of even trying? What's the point of even going on? It's sad. This is the king. And his servants were there. Remember the two servants that were with him? But his servants, together with the woman, compelled him, and he hearkened unto their voice. So he arose from the earth and sat upon the bed, and the woman had a fat calf in the house. And she hasted and killed it, and took flour and kneaded it, and did bake unleavened bread thereof. And she brought it before Saul and before his servants, and they did eat. Then they rose up and went away that night. I always like how they say that. How much time would it take to kill a calf, slaughter it, prepare it, and cook it, and do all that? It took a long time. And meanwhile,
It couldn't have taken that long, or else she would have not made just unleavened bread.
well, cut down the process a little bit. It wasn't going to go overnight.
Just hacked off.
No, killed it. Killed the calf. Fatted calf. So she was kind to him. Let's give her some credit, right there. She was very kind, and the servants were able to compel him to at least get enough food so he can go out to battle and act like you know what you're doing, right? And what happened? Verse 31, chapter 31. You say, well, what happened in those other chapters? Well, David went back and his family and stuff were all taken and he had to track them down and kill all of them. Big story. But but we're talking about Samuel. So what happened to Saul? Chapter 31. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. So they attacked, came forward, and they came and attacked them on the mount, and they could not withstand them. Who knew? Saul knew. Saul knew it was going to happen, right? And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons. And the Philistines slew Jonathan. Oh, that's too bad. And Abinadab and Melchishua, Saul's sons. So 3 of his sons. There's a few more, but the 3 that were there, they were all killed. And the battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. So just basically a random arrow came flying out of the air and struck him. And his armor didn't do any good. It kind of got in between. Must have. And hit him. Then said Saul unto his armor bearer, draw thy sword. By the way, who used to be his armor bearer? David. David was his armor bearer for a while there. So he turns to this other guy, because David's doing his own thing. Draw thy sword and thrust me through therewith, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me. But his armor bearer would not, for he was sore afraid. You don't want to be the guy who killed the king, right? Bad. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell upon it. And I always find that interesting. What did God already tell him? You died that day. You're not going to be captured. You're not going to be taken away and abused and paraded around and all that kind of stuff. You're dying the day. And Saul ended up doing it himself. It's kind of sad, right? And because he did that, no, I'm not going to. There's a lot of myths about suicide and things like that. And no. He still went where? God knew he was going to die. He knew exactly how he was going to die. But he also went to be with Samuel, right? And when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword and died with him, because that's what armor bearers do. If anybody ever says, hey, you want to be an armor bearer? Don't. That's a tough job, right? And so, verse 6. So Saul died. And then his 3 sons, and his armor bearer, and all his men, that same day together. Now, not the entire army, but he had his men, his mighty men. And they all died. That's a tough day for Israel, isn't it? And that's the end of Saul, just as much as it is the end of Samuel, which means what? The end? Because where is Saul? Saul and his soul, and Jonathan and Abinadab and those guys, they all went down to paradise. Their souls went there. And when Jesus Christ died on the cross, where did his soul go? To paradise. Today you will be with me in paradise. And he went down, as Peter says, and he preached the gospel to them, letting them know that everything they were waiting for has now happened. And when he rose, who rose up with him? And all of paradise went up to heaven, now that their sins are completely forgiven. So now paradise is empty. Isn't that nice to know? And where do we get to go? By the way, anybody know what happened to Samuel's sons? Remember Samuel had 2 sons?
Yeah.
Joel. We don't know. No mention of them. Except later on we find out that one of David's, the guy in charge of David's choir. And by the way, how many think a choir was very important to David?
Yeah.
Yes. He liked his music, right? The guy he put in charge was Joel's son. So Samuel's grandson led David's choir. So because now we know David's going to get, and he's going to have his own priest, and he's going to have his own prophet. People like Nathan are going to be the prophets for the king. So Samuel, that is the story of Samuel. He was born to a woman who was barren and given to God at a very young age, brought up by Eli, and he really got the nation off to a good start. Even though the king made some horrible, horrible mistakes, he still set them on a good foundation. Because what, most of all, more than anything, did Samuel do? He gave them the word of God. Is that important?
Absolutely.
It's his job. Did they always want to hear? No. Did he always want to deliver it? No. There's sometimes it's like, I don't want to tell them that. But what? He did. He gave them, unmodified, he gave them the word of God. And he also showed them compassion. Showed compassion to the people when they made mistakes or made a bad decision. He didn't give up on them. I will keep praying for you. I will keep teaching you. I will be patient as God is patient. And with Saul too. Even showing him such compassion, it hurt him to know that he was being punished by God, didn't it? And he set a great example for this next era of Israel. So, in fact, they could have used a lot more people like him. Because some of the prophets and stuff weren't going to be as good. But he was a good one. So, any thoughts? Any closing thoughts on Samuel? Good dude? I'm looking forward to meeting him. He'll be the one with the cloak on. That's how you know him, right? So,
It goes to show you that God can do anything with anybody.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And he clearly had a good plan for Samuel. He's got a good plan for you too? What do we need to do? Trust him. Trust him and just do what he wants to do. Just what Saul was supposed to do. Just do what you're told, right? It's going to be fine. Keep following him. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you.